Hello everybody, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a cost breakdown of our basement. If you've been following for a little while, you might already know that we just completed the renovation of our basement.
So this house was built in around 1966, so sometime in the 60s, and we spent about 6 to 8 months renovating it. This side of the basement that we renovated is approximately 650 square feet. So the basement, when we moved in, there was a bathroom, kind of laundry room mixed together, quite a few random closets. There was an old bar that had been taken out, all the mirrors and everything was still in place. There was a little office in the corner, so we thought the best decision was to just gut it, start fresh, and I'm glad we did. It turned out really nice.
We've always tried to be really transparent in our videos since we started posting about cost of materials and how much everything costs. We've always said we would share a full cost breakdown of this project after it was finished. Just before we begin, we should probably let you know that the cost breakdown does not include furniture in this space. Some furniture we already had, but we were very, very fortunate that we were able to work with a couple companies and be gifted furniture for this. So if this information is helpful for you, if you're planning to renovate your basement, just keep in mind that the final cost does not include things like a couch or a TV. All those things were provided for us, so we did not pay for them. But anyways, just something to consider if you are gonna be furnishing your basement.
It doesn't include like 90% of the labor either. The only thing we actually paid for was the drywall finisher who did the mud and tape, partially the plumbing. I have a friend that's a plumber that helped me get started, and that's about it for labor.
The spray
right?
foam too.
Oh, spray foam installation, yeah, we paid for that. So we didn't have to buy any insulation at all. We didn't have to install vapor barrier, anything like that. It also doesn't include things like trips back and forth to the lumber store. Some people will probably point out, oh, this much in fuel in this. But this is more a cost breakdown of the materials and some of the labor that we had to pay for.
Even before beginning this project, there was some expenses. We had permits for the entire project. So in total, that cost $590 Canadian. All of the rates we're about to share are in Canadian. So that was for an electrical permit, that was $450, and a permit for the county, that was $140.
Yeah, just the municipal building department. You have to get a permit when you're finishing an unfinished space. And typically when you apply for a permit, you need several drawings, which you'd have to pay a designer to do. But as a homeowner, you're allowed to do your own drawings. I did that, so we saved a bunch of money there right off the bat. Once all the demo was finished, we could lay out our new framing, and the cost for the materials for that was $1,300. That includes the new 2x4s for framing, the 2x6 for the bearing wall, and the material for the beams. It also includes all the fasteners, so nails, Tapcons, screws, things like that. Once the framing was complete, we could start with the rough-ins, which is plumbing, electrical, HVAC, which we didn't have to do much of, but we started with the plumbing because it's easier to run your wires around the plumbing. Once your drains and water lines are in place, the wire can bend and go around anywhere you need it to go. So the plumbing in total cost $2,150. That included the labor for my friend. The concrete that we broke up, that was about $50. That was one trip to the dump. I priced that separately. Not everybody has to do that. The new sewers, which was the drains for the toilet, shower, the sink, all that, was $850. The new water lines with all the connections and pack was approximately $350. And then we spent about $900 on the fixtures, which is the shower head, the taps for the sink.
So after the plumbing was complete, we were okay to move on to the electrical. The cost breakdown for the electrical was $600 for the wire that we needed to run, $100 for new boxes, plugs and switches cost about $100, and the fixtures were $850. So in total, we spent $1,650 on the electrical for the basement.
I should also mention that with a permit, you have to get several inspections. So there was a framing inspection, a plumbing rough-in inspection, which is the below slab and above slab, and an insulation inspection and an HVAC inspection. Once it was all framed, the plumbing was roughed in, the sewers were done. I hadn't backfilled with concrete yet. I had built out the HVAC boxes and all the electrical was run. We had the inspector come in, inspect all the work before we closed anything up. That was the county came and ESA came to do the rough-in inspection for the electrical. And then we were good to spray foam and start boarding it up. There's also an inspection for insulation. So once the insulation was all sprayed in, they had to come back again to inspect that before we could begin drywall.
That actually brings me to the next expense, which was the insulation. So we opted to do spray foam insulation. Why?
It's better. I think it's better, especially for a basement. It seals everything. The cost really wasn't that much more when you add up the labor of myself going back and forth to the store for several bags of insulation, taking the time to cut it all, fit it in, install the vapor barrier. With the spray foam, because we went a little thicker, it counts as insulation and vapor barrier, so we actually didn't have to install any. They were in and out in a couple hours, so it was very fast. It seals the outside, it seals everything up, so there's no small gaps where there's no insulation. It's really hard to fill all the spots with insulation, I find anyways. So I thought spray foam would be better.
How thick did we go with it?
So when I framed the walls, I kept the front of the wall 5 inches from the concrete foundation. So that left lots of room for insulation. We ended up going, I think it was 3 inches, which is about R24. So the drywall ended up being one of the larger expenses. I paid to have the mud and tape and all that done after we installed the drywall.
Why?
It's probably the worst part of any job. Drywall to me is probably the worst part of any renovation. Mudding it, taping it, sanding. I really don't enjoy doing that at all. We saved some money by installing the drywall ourselves, but I ended up hiring a contractor to mud and tape everything, which I would recommend everybody does that. For the money, it's totally worth it. You save time. The aggravation of trying to get everything perfect, it's just not worth it.
So the project, we say it took 8 months, but I think that there was like a span of a month where we just stopped working on the basement altogether because we were approaching drywall, and that was we just did not want to do it. Hauling the sheets of drywall was already a struggle, so mudding and taping was just not an interest.
Even the electrical, just doing the electrical took me like about a month to do. I started it and then I said, I don't even want to do this. I just got sick of it. It was a lot of work, and I needed to make sure everything was right because it was getting inspected, and I didn't want to waste money by running things a certain way and then the inspector coming in and telling me I have to change it. But thankfully he found nothing wrong. Everything was done to code and everything passed. We put resilient channel on the ceiling because our joists are a little bit up and down, and the resilient channel gets screwed onto the joists and the drywall hangs off of that, which helps smooth it out and straighten everything. So the resilient channel cost around $400. Screws for all the drywall and everything was $60. We only bought 1 box for that. All the drywall was $1,100. That's the walls and ceiling. That doesn't include any of the mud and tape. The contractor supplied all of the drywall mud, the corner bead, and the tape for all the joints and inside corners, and that was $3,200.
Once the drywall was complete, we were good to move on to painting. So in total, we spent $760 approximately on paint. So that includes brushes, which would have been around $100. Rollers and trays was around $60, and the paint itself was around $600. That is for primer, ceiling paint, and 2 different colors of wall paint in the 1-gallon containers.
The primer, we bought the large pail, same as the ceiling paint.
Right, yeah, good to know. We got the biggest size of the ceiling and the primer.
We get a lot of questions about why we don't buy paint and primer in one. With new drywall, you have to use a primer specifically for new drywall. It's like almost a sealer for the drywall to help the paint stick. If you were to just use paint and primer in one over drywall mud or just plain drywall, it won't adhere very well. It'll literally peel off. So you have to buy a specific primer for new drywall.
Once the painting was all complete, we moved on to installing all the trim. We spent $1,600 Canadian on the trim, and that is the baseboards, casing, and doors.
That includes the doors themselves, the door jambs, the hinges for the doors, and any of the jamb extensions on the window and the exterior door. Where we built the wall out, we had to extend the jambs that were there. Another one of the large expenses was the flooring and all of the tile. So we tiled the laundry room and bathroom with the same tile. It's a 12 by 24 porcelain tile. The flooring in the rest of the space is a LVP, luxury vinyl plank. It looks like white oak, similar to upstairs. And for both floorings, it was $4,000. And we put a dry core subfloor underneath the whole basement. That just separates the concrete from your flooring. It gives a little bit of air barrier underneath and a little bit of an R value, which keeps the floor warmer. Dry core subfloor was $1,400, which came out to $5,400 to cover the entire floor with subfloor tile and vinyl plank. So the square footage of the bathroom is approximately 50 square feet. It's 5 feet wide by 10 feet long, and the laundry room beside it is about 70 square feet. That's 7 feet wide by 10 feet long as well. The rest of the basement works out to about 550 square feet of luxury vinyl plank.
Here she comes.
Once everything was painted, the flooring was done, trim and everything was on, Aspen, we can move on to finishing all the spaces. We started with the laundry room, which
What do you need?
Aspen.
What do you need? Hang on. You want to be in this or something?
We started with the laundry room, which all we really did in there was build some cabinets and add the counters. And that worked out to about $1,000. We built all the cabinets ourselves. We painted them and we just bought a laminate counter to go on either side where we needed a counter.
Then we had another doozy of an expense, the bathroom. The total of the bathroom came out to $73.60. This was broken down for the expenses of finishing the space. So the vanity was $3,200. The vanity was a little bit pricier, but I stand by these vanities. They are beautiful and high quality, real wood. They're absolutely gorgeous.
The thing with the vanity to mention though, that included the handles and the drawer pulls. And it also included the counter with the undermount sink, this backsplash, and one piece of side splash. So that's not terrible, because if you were to buy a vanity from a custom wood shop and then have to have a counter guy come in, cut you a piece of granite or quartz, and you have to buy a sink.
Yeah, that's true actually.
So it's a good price for the build quality and everything. It's everything that it comes with, because you don't have to buy anything separate.
We've purchased 3 of the vanities from the same company and they're always beautiful, always amazing quality. After buying the vanity, the tile for the shower was around $2,000. It's that blue stack tile that came out amazing. It was exactly what we wanted.
That price for the tile includes the tile that we use for our bar area as well.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, because we were supposed to use that in the laundry room, but we didn't end up doing that because it just didn't make sense and we thought we could use it for something better, which we did.
That's not that bad then, $2,000 for the tile, but it was 2 different tiles for 2 different spaces.
Yeah.
The toilet was $300. A lot of you were asking why we didn't just reuse the old blue toilet that was initially in that room, but it just wasn't pretty. On the inside of the bowl, like the toilet itself wasn't pretty.
The toilet too, it's an older toilet, so it's really low to the ground. Most of the newer toilets are seated a little bit higher, which is a lot more comfortable.
And more accessible too.
It's more accessible. That toilet as well, it was a single flush and it used a lot of water at once, which a lot of the newer toilets are a dual flush, so you don't have to waste as much water.
Yeah.
So it's more efficient. It makes sense. It's clean. It fits in there nicely.
All of the bathrooms that we've done in this house, so we have 3 bathrooms, they're all walk-in shower. So they're curbless. And so it just makes more sense to have a higher toilet to make the room more accessible, because if one day we don't live here and, you know, an older person, somebody with a disability, even you never know what happens in life, like it could be yourself, that needs to have an accessible bathroom, then we're already ready for that. We paid $16.50 for the shower glass that was installed, and that was also a friend of ours as well.
Yeah, that's somebody that I know that does it on the side.
Do you know how that price compares to?
So when we priced out the glass for the upstairs shower, I called a few local companies and their price was double what the price is of somebody independently doing it.
The faucet was $180 and the gold arch mirror was $300.
I can't remember. I just wrote those numbers.
I feel like it wasn't that expensive.
That's just the average though.
Okay,
I think.
That's an average. I don't think it was that expensive.
Because it's a high quality faucet as well. It's not like a cheap Amazon.
Moving on to the bar, which was an additional thing that obviously not everybody puts that kind of thing in their basement, but we wanted to. So in total, we paid $12.25 for the bar, which I feel like is actually...
Which doesn't include the tile. The tile is included in the tile price for the bathroom.
Right.
I just don't remember how much each tile costs, so I added them together.
Right. The cabinets were $850 approximately, and the counter was $375. Now Andrew built all of the cabinets, so it was a lot cheaper than if you bought cabinets from the store.
Yeah, and we purchased our material from a local supplier, which is significantly cheaper than a big box store as well.
And then we're into miscellaneous. So we included every other little expense under miscellaneous, which costs around $2,000, we said, approximately. So that would be like the handles for the bar and wood filler, caulking, painter's tape, tile, mortar, grout, miscellaneous shower proofing, an exhaust fan for the bathroom, and any sort of other little decor. But I think most of the decor in this basement was thrifted, or we already had it if it was not provided by a brand.
Yeah, and the miscellaneous is also stuff like brad nails for nailing the trim on, a saw blade, things like that. So roughly 2,000 you could account for things that you don't think you have to purchase, which you do.
So in total, to have a finished basement with nothing in it, just a finished basement, it would be around $32,465 or $32,500 if you wanted to round up. Again, that is in Canadian, and that's just to have a bare bones basement. For us.
Well, bare bones, that includes a bar.
Well, bare bones with a bar.
And a bathroom. So that price, it may seem high to some people, but that was completely roughing in a brand new washroom. So if you have the existing rough in, you'll save a lot of money on doing the sewers. So that wouldn't be included in the plumbing, but because our plumbing was in bad shape, I had to break up all the concrete and run new sewers right to the septic tank. So that was a large added cost. The laundry room, I moved the washer and dryer over, so I had to run a new drain for that. While I had the basement ceiling down, I changed all the water lines for upstairs at the same time, so that cost is in there as well. So I ran new water lines to the sink upstairs in the kitchen, and right from the water softener, I replumbed everything.
Oh, that's right.
So I guess I didn't think of that when I was making the list either.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably a good idea. If you're finishing your ceiling, if you see any old plumbing that there's a chance it could leak down the road, I would suggest just replace it while you're doing everything. You'll save money then, and you won't have a problem in the future where if it does leak, you'll have to take down your drywall and do things twice.
Right. There is one project that we didn't talk about yet, and that was building the fireplace. So there was a fireplace in this basement already. Tell them about it.
So there was an existing, it's like a freestanding gas fireplace. It wasn't a gas insert. It was one of the ones that kind of sit on your floor, and it vented through the top and horizontally out the wall. So it was a good fireplace. It was old, so the thermostat in it wasn't working that well. We didn't want that exact fireplace. It just didn't go with the design we wanted. So
I would have kept it though. I did like it. We were trying to figure out a way to use it because I did think it was pretty, but it came out on the floor, so it took up space. And then that brick wall behind it, because we're already getting questions about why didn't you salvage it. The brick wall was like a floating brick wall. Like it was barely attached to the actual
Yeah,
paneling.
it wasn't attached to the block behind it.
No.
It was just built there just more for looks than anything, and you could move it around.
It was done very poorly. And then there was the wood burning fire, the original wood burning fire when this house was built, that we uncovered when we pulled back that brick. And people want to know, why didn't we keep the fire?
So the chimney's capped off in the roof anyway, so there's nowhere for, if you were to do a wood burning fireplace, there would be nowhere for the exhaust of it to go. The smoke would just fill the house.
Yeah, I knew we were gonna get those kind of questions as soon as people saw that we removed the original fireplace, but
It wasn't even the original
it
fireplace.
wasn't the original. The thing is, when people see that we're renovating an older house, they always think that you're removing charm in a house if you're renovating it, but sometimes the charm's gotta go.
Well, it wasn't practical.
No, it wasn't.
It was the external ducting, so it took up a lot of room. You had to keep the floor like non-combustible, so we would have had to tile a section of it. The whole wall would have had to been fire rated, so it would have had to been a brick veneer or stone or fire block or something like that, which isn't the look we were going for. We wanted a nice clean space, drywalled, the flooring all to run through. We did an electric fireplace insert, and I built a small mantle around it, tiled it, and that's what we did.
And the electric fireplace insert is electric. It just plugs in, so there's just an outlet
It's
for
basically a fancy space heater with a picture.
pretty much. How much did the fireplace cost?
So the wall was built while I was framing, so that's covered under the framing expense. The drywall is covered under the drywall expense. So all we really paid extra for this was the material to build the mantle, the tile, and I guess the fireplace insert.
The fireplace inserts that we used they're honestly expensive. That one is like $2,000.
Is it really?
It is, yeah. It's a very expensive insert. We have a cheap insert up in our upstairs living room that was maybe $400, maybe not even that much, from Wayfair, but this
Yeah.
is from Electric Fireplaces Direct. It is, I think it's actually like $2,100, maybe on sale right now for $18 with the whole Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Maybe not by the time you guys are seeing this video. It's very expensive.
But it all depends on how much you want to spend and what your budget is. But
Right.
they range from $300 to probably $4,000,
Yeah.
depending on the size and everything, and just the quality. But the mantle cost around $250 in trim, and the tile was really cheap. I think it was actually on sale.
Yeah.
And we bought how many pieces? We only bought 6 pieces of tile for that. I used grout that I already had. I used some thin set mortar that I already had. So if you had to buy all that, the tile I would say is $100.
So there's obviously ways that you could do your basement for cheaper.
So if you opted to not do the subfloor underlayment, that would have saved us $1,200. So the baseboard and casing that we used is solid poplar. You could use MDF, you could use finger jointed pine, but I bought the same stuff I bought for upstairs to match. I would recommend using wood in a basement anyways over MDF, because if there's moisture or anything, the MDF doesn't last. A different style door. We used the same doors we used upstairs, but if you used the standard 6-panel like builder grade door, you'd save some money there.
You could shop secondhand and go to places like Habitat for Humanity where you can buy a lot of building supplies for a cheaper price. We did that when we renovated the basement at our last home.
Yeah.
And buying from liquidators, we've done that as well. Buying the vanity from liquidators and trying to cut costs that way is a great option.
You could take a look at the miscolored paint section at Home Depot, where it's usually half price for the paint because they mixed it and the person didn't end up wanting that color. That didn't look how they wanted.
We opted to use laminate countertops in the laundry room and in the bar. We honestly didn't care that much, but I always tell people that if you're shopping for countertops, you should check out the cut section of countertop places. Usually the stuff that is like extra cut off pieces, you can get it for a discounted rate.
You could save quite a bit of money there. We actually did that at our old house in the kitchen. They had a piece just long enough left over, so we saved a couple $1,000s on the counter there. You could do just laminate flooring down here if you wanted to. That would save quite a bit of money, but again, it doesn't really hold up as well.
Well, I think that pretty much concludes our cost breakdown and everything. If there's anything else you want to know, feel free to comment below. Like I said, we try to be as transparent as possible with these things to hopefully help you if you're planning to renovate your basement. I think that's everything, so we will see you guys in our next video, probably on Sunday. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye.